That was your voice. Probably your brilliant,
I mean, this is
brilliant
fucking
narrator.
solipsistic, isn't it? The whole tunnel of me.
Yeah.
Look in
I
those
like
boxes, they're all pictures of me.
I like the what Michael did with kind of, it was almost like a one of those documentaries where they just use random archive because it's really all about the narration. And so it was like that, only it was actually was you in the archive, you know? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I do. It was talk about solipsism. Yeah, but I was shocked. I mean, I was impressed because I don't, he didn't have a clue what he was doing to start with. He said, I want to do some interviews, and I find we did a few interviews, and then I saw what he was up to. I mean, not the whole idea, but just, oh, he wants to do a Hampton Fancher hour, and and I was leery of that. I didn't like it, but he'd come over once in a while, and we blah, 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 and then and then I said, after a while, I said, okay, enough, And then I
Well,
mean,
you already
he was
started
more
though.
compatible than that, and he was serious. It went on for a couple of months, and then I said, listen, man, you've got to do me a fucking favor. I've cooperated with this, but if I say whatever it is you do with this, what if I say at the end of it, no, then you got to go because this is embarrassing. And
Right.
then he understood. He agreed. So when he showed it to me, because I didn't think he didn't know what he was doing structurally, and then obviously he made that work in his editing, and then I thought, oh my God, this has some genius to it. That what he did, the structure,
Right. Using
uh,
your archive of your
all of that, and I didn't think, and that took a
film.
lot of to go research that shit. How did he do that?
Yeah.
But there was a lot of stuff we couldn't get because there was movies I'd been in and stuff in Europe. I wanted him to because they would have been funny, but we couldn't get a couple of them. Or
Yeah.
he couldn't get a couple of them, but yeah. But he did get some stuff too that would amaze me.
Mm.
So I was not embarrassed at the end. I was surprised because I thought I was going to be like, oh God, enough, that.
Oh,
And
so
it didn't seem like that. In fact, I seemed, I could forgive myself, because of how it came off. But it seemed to me. So I was glad.
because you felt embarrassed about or self-conscious about episodes in your earlier life, or maybe not
Absolutely.
even
And
earlier.
all this stuff, and just the blowhard aspect of it. And yet it didn't seem like a blowhard finally. So
Yeah.
it was okay.
Well, because it was really more capturing you in the moment now. Well, now meaning 3 years ago, not
Yeah.
then. Because you look back at, like, we're all kind of living with the choices that some stupid kid made, meaning version of yourself however many years back, and we're living with the consequences of it. We all know that. We all go through that.
Yeah. So the anthropology of that worked. That was kind of fun to see. I mean, just objectively looking at, say that's okay.
How did he record you, Hampton?
How did he record me?
Yeah.
Sometimes he was alone just with his fucking little whatever, and it was like this. And sometimes most of the time I think he had an assistant, you know, uh, who was shooting a recording.
Oh,
Sometimes
they got
separately,
video. Go ahead.
sometimes it was separate.
So they got video of you, and then they just extracted the audio from it. It sounds like.
Oh, I mean, I was talking about about shooting me. Like I was sitting here most of the time,
Yeah,
for that.
no, no, I that is kind of what I'm asking, because obviously it's right. You're not, or you're in moments of the film too, obviously, but the majority of it isn't. See, I wish I had rewatched the whole thing, because I know it would prompt me to ask. It would bring more things up in my mind, but it's okay. We'll still have a great time. But so did they shoot you video the entire time, and then they ended up using a lot of it just as audio, right? Like
Oh yeah, there's a lot
over,
of no. It was all video. It was all shooting. There was no audio. I mean, it was audio beside the video, but
right,
no, there was no. We didn't do any voiceover or anything like that.
right.
That was all. If there was any of that, I don't remember. It's been years since I saw it, but then that was from the film. He just took out the voice because I didn't do any separate.
Right. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very effective, I thought. And, it sounds so casual in a way
Well,
too.
that was the thing that I was surprised about, because the experience itself when it was happening was not very, like, I would say after every time we'd shoot, I'd say, this
Hmm.
was terrible. It's like, you want to do this again or come back tomorrow and try this same scene,
Yeah.
because
It was
it
hard to
seems so
hear.
it seems so vapid, and yet the thing itself, it sounded authentic. I didn't sound phony or
Not at all.
sound real. But I didn't think so when we were doing it, because
This,
he wasn't a very engaged interviewer either, it seemed. Because I was like, oh, he's bored, he's not even looking at me. And so I was like a little, and so I was surprised to see how engaging it seemed,
right. I
engaged I
guess
was.
it's a technique, of trying to not lead you. Like if I'm like, you're saying something, I'm going, you're going to want to, it sends a signal to you as opposed to if I'm deadpan.
Yeah, he was just like, he was not leaning forward at all.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he just seemed disinterested.
watching the documentary, one does lean forward though, because so
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm surprised about,
yeah,
because it seemed, I mean, what I see in the documentary from his side of it, from the filmmaking thing, that's a fucking act of love. I mean, why would he even bother with this unless he's really fascinated with, you know? And that's what I was surprised to see, because
right.
it seemed so engaged that way. And yet my experience when doing it didn't feel like that.
So you had worked with him on a film, right? You were in one of his films.
Oh yeah, I've known him
Yeah.
for a while. Yeah, I did work with him. Yeah, I did work with him twice, I think, or once for sure, with Rutger Hauer.
Right.
I don't think that film was ever finished.
Huh.
Yeah, I worked a couple of days, a couple of improvisations. Maybe there was some writing. I mean, that he'd done that I memorized. I don't remember. But yeah, scene with a really good actress too. So yeah, I don't know whatever happened to that film. I don't act anymore. He asked me if I would do that. I said, no, come on. I don't want, I don't want to suffer acting. And, he's nothing if not tenacious.
He is.
Yeah. You know him, right? It's like,
Not in that context
well,
though.
he doesn't seem that way. I mean, he's so
Yeah.
unassuming, and actually he's not unassuming. He's very, you know, he's quite astute, but, and he's quick to assess situations and stuff, and he
It
has
depends.
strong positions.
Hmm.
I love him. When I met him, I didn't like him in the first instance, but shortly thereafter, it was after I saw Hamlet. I thought, oh, wait a minute, I mistook this guy, and
Interesting.
so I went back to him kind of, and we became friends.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
love him. I think he's in Pennsylvania writing this thing out there.
Oh,
He's an odd fellow, man. He's a dedicated man, and he's always been very generous with his. Like, he gets an article or something he thinks would feed my mind or something. He sends it to me. He's always done that.
hmm.
Got his eye open for other people's, you know, hungers. So,
Right. Yeah, yeah. That's a very that's a window into somebody that they think
yeah, it is.
that they read and they think of you or somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is this place you're in?
This is an apartment that I'm in now. I just got here the other day. You can see I was trying to hide some of the
Got
boxes.
here from where?
Down in the city. I was down in New York, and then
Oh,
I was living down there, and then I moved in about towards the end of the year, last year, early this year. I moved into my father's apartment in Queens because he was not well, and he since did pass away
he just died?
a few months ago. Now it's April. Yeah.
What did he die of?
Well, I know what you're asking. Of course, it did. COVID did contribute, but he was already pretty sick, I think. he was going to go anyway, whether he got or not. He had infections and he was septic. He was not a happy guy towards the end of his life. My mom's situation, it's a long story, but so sadly, yeah. And he was just not and he was in a terrible rehab nursing home. It was really frustrating, and we couldn't do anything about it, of course, because of, and then I was locked down. I was in his apartment. The only nice part of that was that my son joined me, who was 16. So until about a month or so later, he went to Los Angeles to be with his mother, my son. And then once I had the wherewithal, I just started to clear out and move out. And then I just decided that I needed a break from the city for a while. So I found an apartment up by Rhinebeck, that area.
Is that where you are now?
And near Bard College, yeah.
And what did he do?
My dad was, he was in magazine publishing. He started off as like a commercial artist, and he worked for this magazine publishing company in the city, and he just rose through the ranks there over the years. The only company he ever worked for, the last of that kind of breed,
How old was he?
He would have been 84 in August. So, but he could have lived longer. Honestly, I think it was mostly psychological in that regard, because I think he was very down and didn't really have, for some reason, that internal mechanism which said, oh, I have other things to live for other than just my marriage. I mean, my mom is alive, but she's got, has dementia, and so his life revolved around that for many years, until he just sort of became kind of had increasing medical problems himself from self-neglect. So, but they had a wonderful life, for so many years. They had a really great time. They lived in the village. They loved living in the village. They would spend their summers in Italy, at this place on the coast of, Mediterranean coast. They had friends there, and they just, they're simple people, but they really had a nice lifestyle, But my dad didn't have an, identity apart from that. That was his main problem. And,
But that's the way it is. I mean, if you live long enough, you can die of just living long enough, just like, entropy, it runs out. And how are you gonna compare the Ligurian coast with, the fucking rest home, and so.
He thought, yeah, as a matter of fact, he thought at the end, he's having issues, cognitive issues, just from what he went through. I don't think it was.
Sure.
I think if he had been, again, avoided all that last bit, and been home, he wouldn't have had it. But it just screwed up his thinking, and he thought for a while there he was in Italy. Because the one time I was there, I would get, WhatsApp. It's like an app on your phone which lets you to talk to people free, internationally. So I would call this friend of his in Italy, and he got and he thought he was in Italy. It was that he was, and when he realized he wasn't, he got so upset with himself. Yeah, I was like, Dad, give yourself a break. And anyway.
Yeah, but when you think you're losing.
Yeah, you're
control of things.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's like. You're at the mercy of a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in Are you still in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn as we speak.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Heights. In fact, I'm reading Arthur Miller's old autobiography right now, and he's talking about
Arthur Miller.
Yeah.
Time Pieces. What was it called?
Time Bends.
Time
Bends.
Bends. That's right. I want to read that. Yeah.
It's really interesting, but I mean, beside him being so fucking smart and such a psychologist, he's also, I mean, the people he's writing about,
right.
And I'm reading Louis Undermeyer. Before that, Marlon Brando or Kazan or whatever. But anyway, but he lived right up around the corner here. There's so many people that have lived in this area of Brooklyn Heights. I mean, poets and writers.
It's a small neighborhood. Are you like close? I don't want to.
I'm at the bottom. Just before Dumbo. On Poplar Street, which is just at the end.
Sure. Right by the highway, I guess, too, right? Not
Not
too
far,
far.
but 2 blocks from that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I know where you are.
Yeah.
You've been there a long time too, haven't you?
I moved here in '07 or '08, '07
Oh,
when the
okay.
crash happened.
Oh,
I
no.
lived in the Upper West Side before.
Oh, I see. Okay. So not that, I mean, a while, but not that long. Okay.
Seems like it is and seems like it isn't, just like everybody else, man.
Hmm.
You know, forever. And yet I'm still new here to me.
Right. No, I would. I remember in 1987, my first apartment was in Carroll Gardens on Smith Street. The F and the G ran underneath. Like the first night, I was laying in bed with my eyes
Vroom,
open,
vroom,
saying,
vroom, vroom. Yeah.
"What did I do?" But you get used to just about anything. But I used to. I had grown up in Queens, and I knew Manhattan pretty well just because I, grew up. My parents always would take us into the city, and I knew the New York, but I never spent any time in Brooklyn. And then I was introduced to this apartment, and I moved there just basically. It was a beautiful day, and I went up to the apartment. The light was beautiful coming into the apartment. I just took it. It was affordable, and it was 1987. I used to take these long walks because I was so unfamiliar with Brooklyn. I would walk all the way, to Brooklyn Heights and just meander around aimlessly, just in awe of how beautiful it was. And it was pre-Brooklyn, the brand, the big deal. Brooklyn was just a series of old neighborhoods with mostly still old generations of families that had lived there. Maybe like my neighborhood, still very Italian. I just loved it. I would walk around Cobble Hill and, just take in the beautiful block after block of brownstones and old
Yeah,
shops.
well, this area, it's just, I got a lot of mid-19th century here,
Sure.
fine little cottages, wooden, across the street,
Yeah.
it's like 1840 here, this
Yeah.
house. Whitman lived in it, in fact, when he was a teenager, And the Eagle was here just a little few years ago. I used to walk by there. There were guys who working in the old Brooklyn Eagle who had been there since the 20s, I think. Those people are gone. I mean, like you say, it's a different deal now, but it's still beautiful.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, what are we doing?
that's a great question.
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand.
Well, we can,
Are we asking me questions? Is that what this is?
yeah, but it does go into conversations at times, but because
Sure.
we already started it. So yeah. So when you back, I guess the seminal. Sorry if there's any noises, Mike. I don't know how to turn off certain things on my phone.
It's okay with me, man.
So when you first became a screenwriter full time, I guess, and then I'm assuming Blade Runner wasn't long after that. At the time were you from New York originally, and did you always was your plan to stay in Hollywood, or did
No,
you
no, no. I had no,
just,
what'd you ask me? From where originally?
oh, well, I was wondering, since we were already talking about your being in New York, so many of your peers would have stayed in Hollywood. And I know the intentionality of staying in New York is usually avoiding being in Hollywood as well, besides maybe just loving being in New York. So I guess the question would be, what went into that choice?
Oh, it was simple. I mean, I'd lived in New York before.
Mm-hmm.
I was a dancer as a teenager, and I was here then. And I was constantly coming to New York, living in LA, and as an adult. And then in the '80s, in the early '80s, I guess. Oh yeah, yeah, late '70s, early '80s. I was coming here a lot. And I was living in Northern California and in LA. Had two places going back and forth and coming here. And I liked it here a lot. But I'm lazy and postponed things. I didn't want to move here, but I thought about it. And because I liked, LA was so asleep in a way. It was such a dumb place, it seemed, all the time. I mean, I mean, which suited me, not because I'm dumb, but because I like being sequestered. You know, I lived in Topanga Canyon. I had my, you know, a property there. It was great. And I don't have to see people. I don't like to go into the city or anything in LA. There's nothing to go for. And I come to New York and I would see there was thriving going on creatively. I knew people here, you know, writers and painters. And so at one point, I guess it was 83, I was going to LA, I mean, going to New York all the time. And I was just getting a taxi to go to LAX. And I thought I have time for a drink. And I stopped at 1-5, which is by Washington Square. It was a little bar.
Fifth Avenue, yeah. Right.
And so I used to drink there once in a while. I mean, they had a good wine bar. And I went in there and it was like 4 PM because I was early to get to the airport. So I have a drink there because I didn't want to leave New York that day. And so I had a meeting in LA. And so I walked in and there was nobody there. And I sat down at the bar and ordered a glass of wine and realized that there was one other guy at the bar and he was sitting right by me and on a stool. And he turned his head and I saw it was Jerzy Kaczynski. And I thought, fuck me, you know, I love New York for that, right?
Recognized him?
And LA, oh yeah. And I looked at him and he, you know, he's crazy. And he saw I was looking at him and I said, and I explained to him right off the bat, I just said, I'm on my way to fucking LA and I can't stop here for a drink and here you are. And I just read The Painted Bird, blah, blah, blah. And he was engaging. And I described that. I said, only in New York, you know? And he said, look, who's next to you? And there's another guy down the bar a little bit, big shoulders back to me. And he said, and I looked at Jerzy and he said, you know, and so I tapped that guy on the shoulder and it was Baryshnikov. And so then we all started laughing and describing my experience. And then then there was a payphone in those days on the wall there. And I went over and I called my girlfriend in LA. And I said, you know what happened just now? And I said, I got to fucking move here. And so then I got a cab and I was going to the airport and it was traffic now, you know, and it was like the driver was a Russian. And then in those days there was that, you know.
He wasn't Russian.
He's like, dog, he's like hitting the car. Like, no, excuse me, he's Puerto Rican. I'm speaking to him in Spanish.
Oh.
And I was joking around. And then I said, Puertorriqueño, no. And he said, yeah. And I said, it's hard for you here, huh? I mean, you from the country, right? You know, you used to water and palm trees and shit. And look at all this crap, you know? And he said, yeah. And he was complaining about it. And then I said, well, do you think you'll go back? He said, no way. He said, I love this place. And he's screaming at somebody to get out of his way, you know? And he said, I love this place. And I got fucked up. You know, I thought, oh, I got to live here, man. I got to be here. And so, you know, of course I didn't do it because
it was a perfect day. You had a perfect New York day. And
exactly. That was kind of it.
I know. I think those things, you do have days like that in New York City, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's like days where everything is just symbiotic. Is that the right word?
I think that's one word that would work. Yeah.
You know, it's just like,
yeah,
that's true. And I will miss that. But I felt like,
what do you mean you will miss that?
Well, I'm upstate and I am going to be back. Actually, my son, well, we're going to see how it plays out, but I probably will be in Brooklyn a lot because my son, you know, he goes to high school in not too far from you. He goes, it's a little bit closer to downtown Fort Greene, that area, but he's, so he's in Los Angeles with his mom right now, but she'll be coming back and he may come back before that. So if he does, I'll be with him in Brooklyn. He doesn't want to live up here. His friends are down there, you know? So he has no interest in living out of Brooklyn. He wants to be in Brooklyn and New York City. Anyway, so I'll be down there more, I'm guessing. But I felt like the reason I moved up here was just because I felt like in the last bunch of years, New York City kind of has changed so drastically. But I don't want to be the old guy, you know, kind of being grouchy about it either, you know. I think you know, if I still owned a place there, I probably would still be there, but I don't. So I have a little bit more freedom in that regard, you know. Um, so, but I lived there almost my entire life. A lot of years living in New York. You know, it's a big change. Anyway, so that's it. No, kidding. It's such a career. I just don't know where to begin or what questions. Like, you know, I
Well, I
only
see you're well prepared, aren't you?
I'm somewhat well prepared. Well, you know, it's funny. I was almost going to say maybe we could do this, maybe because I didn't know I still had the escapes link, and I thought, oh, that is a great way to refresh my memory about certain things. That's why I started it off talking to you about it, you know. But but I think, you know, I know enough to continue talking to you. And what are let me just ask you though, because I'm also kind of just curious about what you're doing these days while you've been. I assume you're spending the majority of your time quarantined, right?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
you don't want to risk that.
No, I've got a boss, and she's like, it doesn't allow
Your
even the
girlfriend.
slightest infraction
Oh, really?
of my doing anything out there because I'm 80,
One.
81.
You're 81.
I'll be 82 in a few days.
Oh, your birthday's coming up?
I think so. And I mean, I think I'll be 82.
You
But
will. Yeah, I can confirm that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but and I had lung cancer a while back, you know, so I'm compromised, all that
Oh, okay.
shit. So anyway, so she's like, boom, and you know, rightfully so, intelligently so. But so I've been definitely quarantined, and for a long time.
How do you,
Uh,
how
and
do
I
you,
guess I will continue to be, but um, I don't know. Was there a question there?
there's always a question there. No, so I'm wondering how you're occupying your time.
Oh, it's the same as I've always occupied. I mean, there's no difference except the only difference is, which isn't very different. I often don't make money. I'm not making any money right now. But I'm in terms of my days, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic without the arithmetic, um, you
Yeah.
know, it's the same
Well,
as always.
yeah.
I'm busy, and there's not. And it's weird. Everybody agrees with this. I imagine you will too. Although there is a certain laxness about this quarantine business, there's not enough time in any given day to get done what you're supposed to do. It seems like
It's
it's
true.
already 1 or 2 in the morning, and you know, where did it go? And
Yeah.
that's every day has been like that. Um,
It's very true. There also seems to feel like there is a every morning when I open my eyes, there is that Groundhog's Day
sure,
experience of like, oh, this is it's another day, and it feels a lot like the day before. And then you're right, the day feels, even though the experience is how long the day is, it also has the same simultaneous feeling of being very too short, like the, you know, to try to do all the things you kind of
yeah,
want
it's
to do.
definitely. It's almost like I think it's because I mean one reason maybe is I noticed. Ah, fuck it. I'm not going to theorize about it. Stupid. Hey, but you know, you could ask me questions of essential existential value rather than specifics like what time did you do such and such, or you know, when did you become a writer or a dancer or whatever the
But
fuck it is. But you know, you could ask just, you know, throw balls out there,
well,
see if
Mike, I
what
know, and I actually have. I had every intention of doing that. I was kind of first just trying to get a sense of the what you're doing and what you're up to and what life is like for you right now. And
well I'm
but
trying. I think there's also a sliding off, like at this age it's not like I'm I've never known how to deal with, you know, the professional part of my life, and you know, it's always sketchy and iffy and uncertain, and that's been since I was forever,
right.
and and it seems a little more so now because it's not like I'm popular. It's not like get Hampton Fancher or what's Hampton thinking? What do you want to do, Fancher? You know, tell us. And that's not happening. And it's like I don't know that anybody knows who I am or anything like that, so that can't happen. But I'm working. I'm working on
Sure.
a couple of things right now with other people and all that. But I've always felt out of it,
Hmm.
and I feel, I guess, equally out of it, or maybe a little more so. That's the difference
Well,
than usual. But I'm working. I can't. It's hard for me to finish shit, and I'm a procrastinator, and I'm lazy, and all that.
well, that's
So
why.
I
That's
have
why.
things I'm working on that I have a stack of things I'm working on, and I'm not addressing them as conscientiously as I could, and because I'm a lazy, pleasure-seeking asshole, I mean, I like to fuck around. I like to fiddle. I could fiddle forever. I could fiddle, and I've always thought about the gulag and me. It's like I do well in the gulag if nobody bothers me,
Mhm.
um, and I've been in the gulag since I was 4 or 5 years old. That way, like let me get out of here and go to my own cave and
Yeah,
fuck around.
yeah. But that's why maybe partnering is such a helpful thing for you because the other person might be more.
Oh,
Might be.
totally. I mean, pardon. I've often had someone who I worked with, um, so-called assistants or whatever, that's very helpful to me.
Right, right.
Right now, I'm working with a composer. We've done a couple of operas now. I do the libretto, and he's very helpful in that process. We, like in these days, we confer every day almost on this thing, Zoom.
What
And
is the one of the operas that maybe you've made some progress on? What is it? What is the
well,
story?
we finished one. It's called Salvation. I mean, we're not finished. No, he's not. He's not finished. I'm finished with my part. It's 3 acts. We filmed one act already. Um,
So you staged it, in other words.
yeah, well, we staged a poor boy version of it, black box version.
Oh, I
Here
see.
in Brooklyn, we did it. We performed it once at Princeton and once here
St. Anne.
last year. Last year, huh?
I was thinking St. Anne's maybe, but I don't know.
Not. We wish. I'd like to do that, but this it's a pretty far out thing. It's like, and maybe not far out enough in some ways. I don't know. I sent the libretto and some of the music to the Opera House in Buenos Aires a few months ago, and it wasn't innovative enough for them.
Mhm.
It's like they seemed like it was conventional in some way, but in some negative way. But anyway, I'm working on a new project with him. Uh, he's a musician composer, and and trying to get the rights to a book I wrote of 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years ago, a book of short stories that they want to do. Someone else wants, other than Penguin, wants to do a podcast, and somebody wants to do a podcast as well. But they want to do um, my reading those stories.
So you do the
A podcast, yeah.
sure, sure.
And we haven't been able to get loose from Penguin about that yet. Um,
Oh, like a permission rights. Yeah.
yeah. And there's things. I've got something I wrote that that I want that this great artist wants to do a book on, and he's done a lot of it in order to pimp the project, um, based on based on Blade Runner,
Hmm.
and and that's rather interesting. It's good stuff. I mean, he did really good stuff. So we want to publish that as an illustrated book.
Mm.
A big book. Attaching. Like
Yeah,
$100
sure. Right.
and I'm working on stuff.
Well, let me just responding to something you said earlier. Let me just put your mind at ease. When I posted something on Twitter, it's a way of just keeping people interested in what I'm doing. And when I mentioned you, I got a big, number of people were excited. And in fact,
Why, you mean they said, "Ooh, good.
yeah.
What, Hampton Grandstand is going to write again"?
What was one of the nicknames you got? I was just seeing it in some print thing. I just try.
Someone sent me one where they did a mock-up, be on an album cover. It's Handsome Furniture.
Guess there's a lot of ways to go. But anyway, one of the people was the editor of Filmmaker magazine. He retweeted it. I thought that was kind of nice. I think there is a lot of people do know who you are and are interested in what's on your mind. So you talk about your you gravitate towards laziness, and so, but there must be a point like when you're working on a much anticipated, I imagine, high pressure project like the sequel that you had to stay on schedule. But I guess there must be a point where there's enough momentum where
well, it's horrible. I mean, you know that one. I mean, that's like, I mean, some people it's not horrible. People who are confident or well equipped to deal with that stuff, but it's always scared me to death. I've just always been constitutionally, I'm a delinquent,
mm-hmm.
and so, and always have been, and it's hard. I'm just, I walk a tightrope between total failure, loser, to achieving, because I aspire to something, achieving something somehow, but that's been the case since I can remember, because I don't want to cooperate, I resist, I mean, that's why I say delinquent, but also I do like, I'm inspired always. I'm aspiring always to something. Always got some project. Always dreaming some shit up. It never stops. But, I'm inspired. But I have a hard time with commitment,
Mm-hmm.
and following through. I like to
So is it
dreamer.
Is it a laziness, or is it a level of passive aggressiveness on your side? Which is it?
I don't know, but passive aggressive is exactly. I know there's fear. I'm scared.
Well, maybe at the end that's you're operating.
And I'm aggressive. I mean, in a way, maybe I don't know how passive I am, but I'm.
Well, if you're rebelling, or if you're pushing back against
rebellious, yeah,
expectations and deadlines, and
well, it's not that I want to cooperate. I mean, I'm. Let's say this. I aspire to want to be, and I'm proud to be a professional. I like to be able to. I started that out very early in life, because I was a dancer, and I was like, fuck, I can do this better than anybody, and so there is that pride of professionalism always. I don't like to disappoint people at all. I am rebellious. I am delinquent, but I would rather come through any day,
yeah.
and pacify anxieties and worries on other people's part, because I know people don't, just because of my demeanor, I'm not considered trustworthy in some way, it's like, but yet I know I am, that I'm really concerned and caring. And so there is that part of it that belies the delinquent part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, although I like to fiddle, I'm not frivolous, So if I were frivolous, I don't know what I'd do. I don't like frivolous. My constitution is serious, I guess.
And I think so that
I like comedy, but I want to talk about, do things that have meaning, although I don't believe in meaning, but I think it's meaningless, but yet
things that make people feel are not meaningless.
Yeah, that's not meaningless. And also, yeah, I don't think compassion, beauty, etc. is meaningless at all. But caring, doing well, being well, whatever.
So now I'm curious if you care about what people think about you, and I mean beyond that, like, do you care about fame, and do you care about um, criticism.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I don't want to, like criticism, for instance. My life has been a struggle against not being defensive, accepting criticism so I could fucking learn something maybe.
Right.
But my first reaction, I notice if someone doesn't like what I do, I'll pretend not to be sensitive to it. I want to be, I read Montaigne, I want to, I like David Keats, I want to be open and objective. And I would like to be thought of that way even, I like that idea a lot. I promote it, but I'm not, you know. I mean, I get rude awakenings that way. I remember I surprised myself because I think of myself as being somewhat philosophical and okay that way. I've learned something in these long years, and yet I get evidence to the contrary sometimes, and it surprises me that I'm as thin-skinned as I am sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Where you find that out the most is in love relationships. I think that's where you find out what an asshole you are, and
Or after an enormous success, maybe like after.
well, I don't know if there's such a thing as that. That's the other part. It's like, what your failures. Although I do dream about my success, a couple of times someone's complimented me. I don't forget that. But, but they're usually vain things. Like I can remember compliments, a few, somebody equating me with someone else or something who I admire, respect, or whatever, revere. And those don't leave me, the echoes of that, like they please me to remember that. But also, one remembers the other as well. I mean, where you get kind of obsessed thinking about that.
How was coming out of
Nausea.
sorry?
Nausea. But
Mm.
what?
Oh, coming out of some time after Blade Runner. I guess it was a while though when you finally decided to direct a film. And you directed Minus Man. Was that the project? Is that your feature debut, directorial debut, rather?
Yeah, my swan song in my debut. Yeah.
Yeah, at once. What was that like directing Sheryl Crow?
Sheryl Crow. It was. That was up until the point where we started shooting. It was fucking scary because I didn't think it was going to work. And it's a horrible thing to be faithless in that situation. But inside myself, I thought, oh, what have I done? Because I didn't mean, shooting gallery, the people who financed the film were pushing me all along to put somebody in with names and all that shit to pack it up a little bit for their, for insurance or something. And 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 I had the reason I went with shooting galleries because I got a final cut and I had total control, as much as you can have control. I had a bit of control, a little bit. And so
So you,
that was like
yeah.
they wanted me to put her in the film. And I didn't know who the fuck she was. I had no idea, but I found out she was famous, pretty soon. I mean, right away. And said, oh, that's what this is all about. And 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 I realized real soon that she wasn't a pro. It wasn't like this. It was like, oh, what have I done? I betrayed myself, in accepting this. And it was Dwight Yoakam actually who thought of it. I loved Dwight, and he was already cast, and he came up with Sheryl Crow to play that part. And he somehow said somebody's shooting gallery, and they went yes, And she read it, and she said, oh, I love this, and then I was in trouble, and that was I mean, it's funny you bring it up because right to the reading, I mean, not reading, we were rehearsing. I had like a week's preparation with the actors. And she came out to LA and I think with the Chateau Marmont,
Mm-hmm.
Owen and her, me. And it was a Sunday night. I'm sitting on the couch and I wanted to read a little bit, some scene, some script. Oh my God. I thought I was really depressed. I didn't get depressed in that movie at all, but that one, I forgot about it till now. I was sick in my heart and stomach. I said, what? I just fucked up. And then as soon as we started shooting, she was, I was watching, you know, I remember the first day with her, some cafe bar or something. And I was, and I said action and she did it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I was shocked and relieved. I was so happy. I liked her a lot. I mean, because I was so pleased with what she was doing. But she was the only one in that film who wasn't a real experienced actor. And not that that always counts for everything, but it's scary if you think someone can't cut it. So it was, you know, I was real chummy with her in the process, as I was with everybody. But with her, I was so relieved. I grabbed her. I looked at the DP and I went, you know, like we're okay. You know, she's okay. I don't think she acted much ever after.
No.
But I didn't know if she could cut the dope part of it, you know, the addiction part of it. And she seemed to have studied that well enough to
Mm-hmm.
be somewhat authentic.
So she really was committed to trying to make it work, even if she wasn't.
She went to classes. She had a private teacher. I didn't know any of this
Oh,
because she was also nervous.
yeah.
But I didn't know her at all.
Right.
I didn't know. I didn't even know. I never heard her sing. I didn't know she was a singer even. You know.
And a songwriter.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I like her. I haven't
The
talked
guy
to her.
that I like the guy that played the bartender in that same scene. I think in the bar.
Oh, that guy. That he's a great actor.
John
I saw him in Fargo. That's what happened there because he's the husband, you know. And
Oh,
he can do everything, you know.
he was brilliant.
And I directed him badly. I thought that's one of the mistakes I made in that film was I wish I would have widened his perspective in that role because I made him too hard, and would have liked to have seen if he'd have done it more subtly. And I didn't realize that until after I finished cutting the film. Then I thought I should have, you know, I was too much on the money in that part.
Well, why didn't you direct again?
Oh, not out of, I mean, I feel like I'm a director. That's what I can do. But I mean, not everybody thinks that from this film, I mean. But I was not, I was offered some things and they weren't things I wanted to do. The two things I was offered that I wanted to do fell through. And and then I wrote two more to do myself. And in the last one, you know, all these things are cast dependent, you know, I mean, the stars to make them, that one I needed, I think, 20 million. And I had the star for it and I got the money. And then the fucking star took another, you know, jumped out of it. And so I had a few of those over the next 5 years.
I see. So your intention was
maybe even longer. And you know, I just had bad luck and I guess I handled it poorly in some way. I got to take responsibility. I don't know where that is. And then finally, and I think it's age too, because it's like if I'd have done Minus Man when I was 25 or whatever, I'd be rolling as a director, I would think. But I was 60 something or whatever.
Oh, really?
And it's like, you know, nobody's gonna say, oh, let's get him, you know, and I blew it because I didn't write something that was feasible enough, you know. I did a D.B. Cooper script that I thought was feasible. And I did get financed, but that was with that star who dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happened twice in that particular project. And that's the last thing I wrote for myself to direct. And then I finally thought, fuck it, I can't get it done. And so I think, and by age, I mean, too, in my own estimation, like what am I gonna do? I can't direct a movie now, you know? I just don't have it. So it's over with. And that's, I mean, it's more than a sadness in my life. It's you know, it's kind of the little tiny tragedy of my life because that's what I never want to be a fucking movie writer. That never entered my mind except to do what I did kind of to get along. But I wanted to direct, and I was directing things, direct stage, etc.
So
And
what,
that's my mentality. But I blew it. I just didn't. You know, a lot of people, more people than not, I guess, blow their lives. I mean, in terms of what they want to do, what they could do, what they dream of doing, and they don't do it. Uh, Most of the people I've known do that, you know,
that's right.
including me. And
Well, it's confusing because it seems like you really were not interested in it, like you fell into the acting thing almost accidentally.
I did fall into it accidentally. I
Yeah.
didn't want to
So,
act.
but you did a lot of it, and it must have been lucrative. So,
Well, it paid the rent, and I could buy a car once in a while, you know.
take a girl out.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was fun. I mean, it was not fun acting. Acting was hard, but
Oh,
but
make it look pretty easy though.
well, a couple of times it was okay. One play I did, I liked it twice. I mean, two, opening night and closing night I liked, but the 3 months in between it was just alcoholism,
Uh,
and
well, you make it look easy when you're acting because you have a very natural style. It seems
well,
very.
I should have studied harder. I mean, I was serious, you know. I mean, I studied at certain, I taught, you know, all that, you know, method acting,
Yeah.
and I was, you know, involved in it, but I didn't ever really commit to it, and I never wanted to. My ego or something. I wouldn't call myself an actor. I was always calling myself a writer, not a screenwriter, but just a writer. You know, I was a poet.
Hmm.
You know, so I'm not. I'm a writer. And I would never say I was an actor to people.
People say artist a lot too. Sometimes when they're trying not to, maybe when they struggle with.
Well, I was an
Yeah.
artist, but a painter. You know, and I like. I mean,
Yeah.
those things. That's what I do. And
Well, that's what you are. You are an artist, and it's why you have no. I mean, I'm saying this in the form of a statement, like but it's really a question, which is, you know, That's why you're at your where you're at right now. You're still um, creating. You know, it's what else are you gonna.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I, I I never thought of that until I don't know about 3 years ago. I was talking to my daughter on the phone, and she said it was some guy we both know and my age, just died. And I said, what's Ron doing? And she said, I hadn't seen him in a long time. She said, oh, he's playing golf. I said, golf? What do you mean golf? He's a golf player? She said, yeah, he's retired. I said, retired? What the fuck are you talking about? Why? Retired? She said, yeah. She said, you don't understand that, do you? And I said, I guess retired, but I didn't, why, how can anybody retire? And she said, well, and she said it facetiously and she was being sweet, but she said, well, you're an artist and artists don't retire. And I went, and I almost cried because it was true. I never thought of that before, but she said, oh, that's, I am something. You know, I don't think of myself as anything, but I'm that thing that she just said. And we don't retire. You
Mhm.
know, you
Right. No,
keep diddling.
artistry is not a. It's not a. Well, it can be a profession, but it's your
Or
identity.
you're like a potter. You know, you keep with your until you're even when you're arthritic or whatever, you're still old Renoir is still, you
Hmm.
know, got the brush in his hand. And it's because it's a kid's game. You don't retire, you don't you're if you're a kid, you remain a kid that
The
way.
career part of it. The career part of it.
The career part of it's tough.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
the
that's
kid
like
part.
that was always tough.
But I'm curious then why it was when you were getting out of the acting, and because I could see why also you worked so what you were so good on television, that medium in particular, because you were so low key often. I mean, often. I mean, I know you get to the fights and the horses, but I mean, it would work for television, you know.
I don't know. I mean, I think that thing, that TV so-called career is based on they have these shitty
Look,
scripts, they have these shitty characters, and they're I think Stanislavski called it typology, or Eisenstein called it typology. And there's certain types. I was an odd type, you know, I was an odd looking dude, you know, who had a if they need somebody to set a barn on fire, I was your man, you know, and
sure.
that kind of thing. And then when I got to be handsomer,
Uh-huh.
you know, 10 years later, whatever it was, then I could be a handsome guy, you know, a swine. of some
Yeah.
kind, the
Right.
adulterer or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's these types. They, casting people. It's about casting directors. They like you, or they need to fulfill something, and they call certain types of people in. I'm the guy in a white suit, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think so I never got to that level where I was, I guess, perceived as an acting commodity. I don't think. I never got to be a really seriously good actor, and I wanted to be, but I couldn't put in the time. I was too lazy.
Maybe
It
you were
was
going
awfully hard too. Acting I found
to.
acting really hard.
You would have been offered a cop show or something.
Well, that's the thing. I couldn't do. They would never offer me anything conventional. I was not.
Okay.
Whatever the impression was in me going into an office talking to somebody, I was like,
Oh,
whoa. I mean, when I was offered, I was a few times series, but I'd always come in second, in those competitions because I'd find out why. I mean, after years, I'd say, oh, they don't really trust you. Trust me to what? Show up? No, you're a little odd, and that was true. I'm lucky to have been, anybody opened the door when I knocked. I know that. It's like, because I'm not acceptable. I'm liked often, but not really okay, and that's ever since I was born, I've been like that. That's we are what we are, and
So
part of what we are is how we're perceived.
Sure.
And you become what you're perceived too, I think.
Sure. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was rebellious and arrogant when I was 5, 6, really, and was perceived that way and treated that way, and gave me a certain foothold, maybe, my ego, I don't know, but you become what you pretend you are, kind of.
Mm.
Yeah.
So why didn't you become when you were made that transition then out of acting? Why it was you just didn't become a director because?
Well, I didn't have the chops, not the directing chops, I don't think, but the like I knew guys who became directors, who are directors, who I didn't have the ambition or something, the chops. I mean, the power to push. I was more interested in my latest romance, than that. And the ones who I knew guys who became great directors, immortal kind of even. And I could name them. We'd say, oh yeah, but I could see the difference then when I knew them, that they were like, and some people had said too, look, if they had what you had, they wouldn't become what they became because they'd be too busy having other kinds of fun, And I was busy having other kinds of fun.
Yeah.
And not that it was a clear-cut choice, but I did go, and out of fear too. I was afraid to be tested and come up short, I think. It made me very nervous. I was a very sensitive boy. And
I can tell.
I didn't have the balls, the power. The fear was too much or something to pursue my proper vocation, properly, I think. And everybody knew that I was good. I mean, that's what I should do ever since forever. That's it, because I was always helping that way, even directors, I did a film in Europe and, that guy wanted me to do stuff all the time. That was his job because it was so second nature to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was comfortable with it. I did it pretty well. But I understand actors. And I know how to get them to do stuff. It's easy for me. I mean, I love it. It's like I'm at home in that. And the best time I've ever had in my life, directing a play, directing that movie. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I was at home.
Mm.
It's a great thing to be at home, where you feel totally comfortable and you can listen and watch and enjoy it and contribute, and as the duck swims.
Yeah, right.
So
Authenticism.
yeah, and that's authenticity is the one thing that's lacking in my life always. It seems I was self-criticism. I was dubious about myself, and yet that felt very authentic. As a dancer, I felt also inauthentic, but also very authentic.
Which part was?
I was a dancer at first. I mean, in the
I
beginning
remember
of
the
my life.
flamenco dancing. Was
Yeah, but that's what I did best. That's the only thing that I really, and I was still dubious about it, but frightened of it. But still, it was. I
But you're
look back.
choreographed. You're being
Yeah,
choreographed, and you, right? And if you're a craftsman and you're being choreographed, and you are succinct in your work, you're good.
well,
I mean,
that's a. I mean, like for instance, a dancer choreography. Although I was an active dancer, but the choreography was the main thing for me to do some things that had never been done before, and I was dreaming of that all the time. And dreaming is the key. It's like I've been a dreamer. I don't mean just in a Ichabod Crane kind of way. I mean a hands-on kind of dreamer. Like dreaming stuff was always, and still is, my deepest occupation. Always. So that's it, dreaming. I'd rather dream than live any day because I like the vividness of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm addicted to it.
Mm.
I could do that every day, just dream.
Wakeful dreaming or in
either way. I mean both. I mean I'm not being facile. It's true, both.
Uh-huh.
I love to dream. Bad ones, good ones, whatever they are. Don't get me out of my dream, man. I like it too. It's so seriously, vitally, voluptuously realer than real that I like it better than life. But it's life personified. But also, I mean, that's both kinds of dreaming. I think I talked to a therapist about it a long time ago, and he thought that dreaming, I mean, daydreaming,
mm-hmm.
as it were, was a solution to my problems as a child, or a salvation to my existence as a child. He said, that's what that is. That's why you rely on it, you trust it, you do it, because it was the great escape from certain realities.
Absolutely. And a rich fantasy life, internal fantasy life.
It's all, for me, anything I have, anything I might own that could be called complementary, a strength or a talent or whatever, has to do with imagination. Or humanist intelligence, like my political, social concerns has to do with my imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And that's after, years of wondering and considering things. That's what I come up with. It's all about that. It's about imagination.
Is that one explanation, or does that definitely have a connection with writing science fiction?
Oh,
or is that separate? As that was just a complete...
No, it's not separate, but it's science fiction is just I have no connection to science fiction at all. I mean, I never have. It's just that just happens somehow.
I understand.
And I understand the idea of that, what you just said.
The themes beneath it, or what
you have more freedom to do certain things, but
that's true.
But I don't need science fiction to do that. I don't know anything about science fiction. I've never read science fiction. I don't have no interest in science fiction per se, no more than I do cowboys and Indians.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll read a cowboy Indian book, but and maybe write something. But science fiction has never been. That was just a coincidence or a piece of luck, actually.
Mhm.
I didn't like that book that Blade Runner came from. That
The
was just
Phil K.
purely a
Dick.
commercial idea. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm lacking in this idea of structure. I could never put things together, organize things, and that I detective chases robot. Yeah, okay, I could maybe ride that, narratively, but I didn't. I mean, I did have an idea about its deeper meaning, about what it is to be a human being. That was a big one, and even a bigger one was what the fuck have we done with this world? That was everything. So, and that's where that fueled that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think of that as science fiction. I thought of that as kind of the ugly reality of of the old Homo sapien tragedy. What we've done with our gifts.
Right. Yeah.
Torn it all down. Put the animals in pet shops and veterinarian, whatever. It's just like hell, purgatory.
Did you have? So has that been like a what's the term? Like a point of contention in the sense of the world is full of geeks and science fiction lovers, and I read a handful of science fiction books, but I'm not like going to Comic-Con. You know what I mean? But I'm wondering, you having written one of the most or being part of the core team behind Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, arguably the maybe most popular science fiction films. I know they were immediately the original wasn't necessarily a big winner. It took a little time, but still, not like the community of science fiction lovers must think of you as an icon. And then when they meet you, they've got to be kind of taken aback, if not outright frustrated.
I don't know. I mean, it's
how have
like,
some of those encounters gone?
Huh?
How have some of those encounters gone?
Oh, they're okay. It's okay because I don't know. It's no. I mean, there is a little irony in that maybe that it's not lost on some people. We have a laugh about it that I've only read 2 science fiction books in my life, and one of them was that one.
Yeah, right.
And that I didn't even like that book. So although I have people who I love who did, people who made a serious study of that book, and I understand something about that. But I mean, Philip K. Dick, but I'm not so interested. It's been okay. Everybody's been rather, equitable. I mean, the people who are, who I admire, really admire. I mean, like one of my mentor, in a literary sense, has been Burroughs, Bill, and he loved that fucking book. I knew Burroughs, and in a way, he's kind of science fiction. He is an influence for me forever. One of the two biggest influences in my literary capacity. But and I guess he could be called science fiction in a way. He was science fiction, but he loved Dick. And another friend of mine who I really admire is an expert on Philip K. Dick and loves him. And he wasn't surprised when I told him I didn't like Dick's work, or what little I knew of it.
Say you didn't read any of it except for one.
Yeah, but that was Jonathan Lethem, or is Jonathan Lethem, and he understands fucking Philip K. Dick big time, and I know that Philip K. Dick is worthy of one's attentions, like he's worthy of Jonathan Lethem, the smartest man I've ever known. Oh yeah.
I just happened to remember that because I was unpacking all my books, Hampton, and I remembered that where I stuck this just a little while.
That's a great cover. I never
I
saw that
know. I love
cover.
it. I love that cover. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that cover
I
too.
want to read more of his. He is a great. I love his writing.
Yeah,
It
I was
reminds
going to
me.
do a movie of his. I mean, that's how I got to know him. I wrote a script.
Oh,
Uh, that was, in fact, one of the last things that I almost got done. I was going to direct that, I think. No, I wasn't. Um,
was Dick around? I can't remember the timeline, so forgive me. But was Dick around when in the 79, 78, that period? Did you know him?
79. Yeah, he was. I met him in 75, 76, 79. Yeah, he was around.
Hmm.
He died. Oh, he died in the early 80s. He died because Blade Runner came out in 82,
Oh,
I think,
right, right.
and he died right then.
Okay, yeah.
He was an interesting guy. I was with him three times, I guess. Spent some time with him, and I was quite fascinated with him. I mean, he was fascinating and also brilliant.
Hmm.
Not as brilliant as Jonathan Lethem.
It's not a competition, is it?
I guess it is. I mean, in my mind, I'm
Right,
always
right, right. You're the,
measuring everybody.
yeah.
Like I call man. People ask me, "What do you think man is?" I say, "Man is an inchworm." That's all we're always constantly figuring out how much this cost, or how far we've gone, or how much time, or
Hmm.
measuring,
Measuring, measure.
judging. Uh, and I'm always doing that. Who's the greatest composer? Who's the greatest actor? Who's the greatest painter? Do you like this guy more than that guy? I don't know. I guess it's Darwinian or just stupid.
I really enjoyed talking. I know you probably think I'm as lazy and
You're almost as lazy as me, man.
maybe more. I don't know.
No,
I
no.
well,
Don't flatter yourself.
right. Here we go competing. We can't even get a good, proper competition going of who's the laziest. That's ironic.
See,
Yeah,
see, there it is, right there.
indeed.
I'm too lazy for that.
Well, I imagine there's a million interviews regarding anyway. I'm not really like about the anecdotes about the film anecdotes. If I want to know what happened on the set of Blade Runner, I can see it. There's probably a million articles and videos out there that can do that. But I got what I was looking for, a small idea of maybe the man
The man behind the man,
right behind the
the man
burrow.
behind the mask. Okay, man.
Well,
Thank you.
listen, I really, appreciate you taking the time.
No problem.
I hope it wasn't too unpleasant,
No, not at all. Not at all.
and then maybe one day when we're allowed to,
We're never going to be allowed, man.
no, maybe not.
Going to be in prison
I'll just come
forever.
in I'll be walking around the north part of Brooklyn Heights in a hazmat suit, knocking on doors looking for you.
Yeah,
On
you
Henry.
waved to the wrong guy in your gloved hand.
Yeah, right.
Okay, man. Bye.
All
Be
right. All right.
careful.
All right, you too, buddy. Thank you very much. I really appreciate
Sure.
it. Okay. Thank you. I'll let you go here.